The camera pans across a dimly lit bedroom where a father sits on the edge of his daughter's bed, his voice soft as he reads her favorite story. Unknown to them, a woman stands in the shadows of the hallway, tears streaming down her face. This isn't just any woman, she's Alexandra Reeves, CEO of Horizon Industries, and what she witnesses in this humble home will forever change the trajectory of her life. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful moments to light. Alexandra Reeves had everything money could buy, but nothing that truly mattered. At 42, she had built Horizon Industries from the ground up, transforming it into a tech empire valued at billions. Her corner office overlooked the Manhattan skyline, her wardrobe consisted of designer labels, and her face graced the covers of business magazines. Yet each night, she returned to an empty penthouse apartment where the silence was deafening. 3 years ago, Alexandra had lost her husband and 5-year-old daughter in a car accident. She had been working late that night, canceling their family dinner plans for the 3rd time that week. The guilt consumed her, but rather than face it, she buried herself deeper in her work, becoming known as the Ice Queen among her employees. Her heart had hardened, protected by walls of ambition and detachment. Michael Chen was everything Alexandra was not. At 36, he worked as a middle school science teacher in Queens, living paycheck to paycheck in a modest 2-bedroom apartment. His wife had left when their daughter Lily was just 2, unable to handle the responsibilities of parenthood. For the past 5 years, Michael had raised Lily alone, creating a home filled with laughter, creativity, and love despite their financial struggles. Their paths would never have crossed if not for Horizon's community outreach program, a PR initiative Alexandra had reluctantly approved. The company was donating technology to underfunded schools, and Michael's class had been selected as recipients. What was meant to be a simple photo opportunity became the catalyst for an unexpected connection. During the school visit, Alexandra had been her usual efficient self, shaking hands and smiling for cameras while mentally reviewing her afternoon meetings. But then Lily Chen, now 7 years old with bright eyes and missing front teeth, had tugged on her expensive blazer. "Are you the lady who sent us the computers?" Lily had asked, looking up at Alexandra with unabashed curiosity. Something about the child's direct gaze had pierced through Alexandra's carefully constructed facade. Perhaps it was the way Lily tilted her head, reminiscent of Alexandra's own daughter, or perhaps it was simply the innocence in her question. Whatever the reason, Alexandra had found herself kneeling down to the child's level, her schedule momentarily forgotten. "Yes, I am," she had replied, her voice softer than it had been in years. "My daddy says that when people do nice things, we should say thank you and do something nice back," Lily had declared, pressing a handmade card into Alexandra's hands. "I made this for you." The card was simple, construction paper decorated with glitter and a drawing of what appeared to be a woman in a suit standing beside a computer. Inside, in careful handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for helping our class. You are a hero." Alexandra had been stunned into silence, clutching the card as if it were made of precious metal rather than paper. When she finally looked up, she had met Michael's eyes as kind, slightly embarrassed, and filled with quiet pride for his daughter. "I'm sorry," he had said. She insisted on making something for whoever brought the computers. "No, please don't apologize," Alexandra had replied, surprising herself with the emotion in her voice. This is the most thoughtful gift I've received in a very long time." That brief exchange had stayed with Alexandra for days afterward, haunting her thoughts during meetings and keeping her awake at night. The card now sat on her otherwise immaculate desk, out of place yet impossible to put away. There had been something about Michael and Lily Chen that had awakened a longing she had spent years suppressing. 2 weeks after the school visit, Alexandra found herself doing something completely out of character. Using the contact information from the school donation paperwork, she had tracked down Michael's address. She told herself it was to deliver additional educational resources, a transparent excuse even to her own ears. The evening she arrived at their apartment building in Queens, Alexandra sat in her luxury car for nearly an hour, questioning her sanity. She had changed out of her usual power suit into jeans and a sweater, attempting to look less conspicuous, though her designer boots and handbag still marked her as out of place in this neighborhood. Finally gathering her courage, she had entered the building, carrying a box of books and educational games. She had rehearsed a professional explanation for her presence, but as she approached their door, she heard laughter from within, pure, uninhibited joy that made her pause with her hand raised to knock. Through the partially open window beside the door, she could see into their small living room. Michael was chasing Lily around a coffee table, both of them giggling as they played some made-up game. The apartment was modest, mismatched furniture, walls covered with Lily's artwork, shelves overflowing with books, but it radiated a warmth Alexandra's penthouse had never known. She couldn't bring herself to knock, to intrude on their happiness with her presence. Instead, she had left the box outside their door with a simple note, for Lily, to encourage her curiosity. From Horizon Industries. That should have been the end of it. Alexandra should have returned to her life, satisfied with her anonymous good deed. But something kept drawing her back. Over the next month, she found herself driving to Queens several evenings a week, parking near their building, and watching from a distance as lights came on in their apartment. Sometimes she would see their silhouettes through the curtains, Michael helping Lily with homework, the two of them dancing around the kitchen as they prepared dinner, ordinary moments that seemed extraordinary to Alexandra. She knew her behavior bordered on stalking, knew it was unhealthy and possibly illegal. Yet she couldn't stop herself from seeking out these glimpses into a life so different from her own, a life filled with the very things she had sacrificed in pursuit of success. On a rainy Tuesday evening, Alexandra was sitting in her car outside their building when she saw Michael and Lily rushing toward the entrance, sharing an umbrella and laughing as they dodged puddles. Lily was wearing a raincoat that was slightly too big, the sleeves covering her hands, while Michael carried grocery bags and what appeared to be a stack of papers to grade. As they neared the building, Lily slipped on the wet pavement, falling hard. The child's cry of pain cut through Alexandra like a knife. Before she could think, she was out of her car and rushing toward them, heedless of the rain soaking through her expensive clothes. "Is she okay?" Alexandra asked, kneeling beside them on the wet sidewalk. Michael looked up, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Ms. Reeves? What are you?" "I was just passing by," she lied, focusing on Lily. "That looked like a nasty fall." Lily was holding her knee, tears mixing with raindrops on her face. "It hurts, Daddy." "Let me see, sweetheart," Michael said gently, examining her knee. There was a scrape, bleeding slightly but not serious. "We'll clean it up inside." "I can help," Alexandra offered, then immediately regretted her presumption. "I mean, if you need an extra hand with your groceries." Michael hesitated, clearly confused by her presence but too polite to question it further. "That would be helpful, actually." "Thank you." And so Alexandra Reeves, CEO of Horizon Industries, found herself carrying grocery bags up 3 flights of stairs to a small apartment in Queens, following a middle school teacher and his limping daughter. The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on her, yet it felt more real than anything she had experienced in years. Inside their apartment, Alexandra stood awkwardly in the kitchen while Michael tended to Lily's knee in the bathroom. She began unpacking the groceries, noting the store brands and careful selections that spoke of a tight budget. When Michael returned, he found her organizing his refrigerator. "You really don't have to do that," he said, embarrassment coloring his voice. "I don't mind," Alexandra replied, continuing her task. "How's Lily?" "She's tough. Already asking for ice cream to make it better." He smiled, then his expression grew serious. "Ms. Reeves?" "Alexandra, please." "Alexandra. Not that I'm not grateful for your help, but may I ask what you're really doing here?" The directness of his question caught her off guard. Alexandra had built her career on quick thinking and persuasive speech, but in that moment, she found herself unable to formulate a convincing lie. "I don't know," she admitted finally, closing the refrigerator door and turning to face him. I've been coming here. Driving by. Watching your apartment." The words sounded terrible as she spoke them. "That sounds disturbing." "I'm sorry." Rather than the anger or fear she expected, Michael's expression reflected concern. "Are you okay?" The simple question broke something inside her. Alexandra Reeves, who hadn't cried in public since her family's funeral, felt tears welling in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "I don't think I am." Michael glanced toward the bathroom where Lily was still bandaging her stuffed animals, then back to Alexandra. "Would you like some tea?" "It's nothing fancy, just tea bags, but..." "Tea would be nice," she said, grateful for the ordinary offer in the face of her extraordinary confession. They sat at the small kitchen table, steam rising from mismatched mugs between them. Alexandra found herself telling Michael about her family, about the accident, about the emptiness that had consumed her life. She spoke of throwing herself into work, of the hollow achievements that filled her resume but not her heart. She had never shared these feelings with anyone, not her therapist, not her few remaining friends, certainly not her employees. Michael listened without judgment, his eyes kind. When she finally fell silent, embarrassed by her outpouring, he spoke softly. "After my wife left, I thought my life was over. I had a 2-year-old, a job that barely paid the bills, and no idea how to be both mother and father to Lily. There were nights I sat on the bathroom floor and cried after she was asleep, convinced I was failing her." He took a sip of his tea before continuing. "But then one morning, Lily crawled into my lap while I was paying bills, put her little hands on my face, and said, 'Daddy happy?' Just like that, I realized that despite everything, I was the luckiest person alive because I had her." Alexandra wiped away a tear. "You've created something beautiful here. A real home." "It's not much." "It's everything," she interrupted. "Everything that matters." Their conversation was interrupted by Lily's appearance in the doorway, her knee sporting a colorful bandage. "Daddy, it's story time." Michael checked his watch. "You're right, it is. But we have a guest, sweetheart." Lily looked at Alexandra with solemn eyes. "Do you like stories?" Alexandra smiled through her tears. "I love stories." "Then you can listen too," Lily decided, holding out her hand to Alexandra. That was how Alexandra found herself sitting on the edge of Lily's bed, listening as Michael read from a well-worn copy of The Little Prince. Lily's room was small but magical, twinkling lights strung across the ceiling, bookshelves overflowing, and walls covered with her artwork. It was a child's sanctuary, created with love rather than money. As Michael read about the fox being tamed by the little prince, about the importance of creating bonds, Alexandra felt something shift within her. The walls she had built around her heart began to crumble, pain flowing out and warmth flowing in. In that moment, watching this father read to his daughter with such tenderness, Alexandra experienced a healing she had thought impossible. When Lily's eyes grew heavy, Michael tucked her in, kissing her forehead and whispering, "Sweet dreams, my brave explorer." "Good night, Daddy," Lily murmured, then turned sleepy eyes to Alexandra. "Good night, Ms. Alexandra. Will you come back for another story?" The question caught Alexandra by surprise. "Would that be okay?" Lily nodded, already drifting toward sleep. "You look less sad when you listen to stories." Alexandra stood in the hallway as Michael quietly closed Lily's door, her emotions too raw and complex to name. "She's extraordinary," she whispered. "She is," Michael agreed. "Kids have a way of seeing right through us." They returned to the kitchen, the air between them changed by the intimacy of the bedtime ritual they had shared. Alexandra knew she should leave, return to her world of boardrooms and balance sheets, yet she couldn't bring herself to step away from this glimpse of a different life. I should go, she said finally, though her feet remained rooted to the floor. You could stay for dinner, Michael offered. It's just spaghetti, nothing fancy. I'd like that, Alexandra replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As they prepared the simple meal together, Alexandra found herself laughing for the first time in years. Michael told stories about his students, about Lily's adventures in kindergarten, about the challenges and joys of single parenthood. There was no pretense between them, he didn't try to impress her with his accomplishments, and she didn't feel the need to maintain her executive persona. Over pasta and store-bought sauce, Alexandra shared stories of her own daughter, memories she had locked away for fear of the pain they would bring. Yet here, in this humble kitchen with this kind man, the memories brought bittersweet joy rather than unbearable anguish. I haven't spoken about Emma in so long, she admitted, twirling pasta around her fork. Sometimes I worry I'm forgetting her face. Michael's expression was gentle. Would you like to see something? He led her to a small desk in the corner of the living room, opening a drawer to retrieve a sketchbook. I teach science, but art was always my passion. I do this for families sometimes, when I can. He opened the sketchbook to reveal a portrait of a young girl with Alexandra's eyes and smile, Emma, captured in pencil with remarkable detail and sensitivity. How did you? There was an article about you in the school newsletter before your visit. It mentioned your loss and had a small family photo. I hope it's not presumptuous, but I thought you might want it. Alexandra traced her fingers over the drawing, over the face of her daughter rendered with such care by this man who had never met her. It's perfect, she whispered. Her exactly. When she finally left Michael's apartment that night, Alexandra carried the portrait carefully in her hands, as if it were made of glass rather than paper. They had exchanged phone numbers. For the next school donation, Michael had said with a smile that suggested they both knew it was more than that. In the weeks that followed, Alexandra found herself drawn back to that apartment in Queens, not as a silent observer but as an invited guest. She joined them for dinner, for movie nights, for weekend trips to the park. With each visit, the ice around her heart melted further. Her employees noticed the change in her. The Ice Queen began asking about their families, implementing flexible work policies, even smiling in meetings. When she proposed a major expansion of the educational outreach program, focusing on supporting single-parent families, her board of directors was stunned but ultimately supportive. 6 months after that rainy evening, Alexandra sat in her office, staring at the handmade card that still held a place of honor on her desk. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael, Lily's science fair tonight. She's nervous. Says it won't be perfect without her Ms. Alexandra there. Alexandra smiled, already reaching for her coat. The quarterly report could wait, some things were more important. As she drove to Queens, Alexandra reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. She had lost herself in grief and ambition, only to find healing in the most unexpected place, a modest apartment where a father read bedtime stories to his daughter. She wasn't naive enough to believe that her pain would ever completely disappear. Emma and her husband would always be missing pieces of her heart. But Michael and Lily had shown her that it was possible to build something new around that absence, not to replace what was lost, but to create space for new joy alongside the grief. That night, as she watched Lily proudly present her science project on the water cycle, Alexandra caught Michael's eye across the crowded school gymnasium. His smile held a question, and her answering nod held a promise. They were creating something together, step by step, day by day, a future none of them had imagined but all of them deserved. Later, as they walked back to the apartment, Lily skipping ahead with her blue ribbon clutched tightly in her hand, Michael's fingers found Alexandra's. You know, he said quietly, Lily asked me something interesting this morning. What's that? Alexandra asked, enjoying the warmth of his hand in hers. She wanted to know if you could read the bedtime story tonight. Said you do the best voices? Alexandra laughed, a sound that had once been foreign but now came. Alexandra laughed, a sound that had once been foreign but now came naturally to her. "I'd be honored to be tonight's storyteller." When they reached the apartment, Lily was already in her pajamas, bouncing excitedly on her bed with a stack of books beside her. "You came," she exclaimed when Alexandra appeared in the doorway. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Alexandra replied, settling beside her on the bed. As Alexandra read, bringing each character to life with different voices just as Lily loved, she caught Michael watching from the doorway, his expression soft with something that made her heart flutter. When Lily finally drifted off to sleep, Alexandra gently tucked the blanket around her and placed a kiss on her forehead, a gesture that felt both new and somehow familiar. In the living room, Michael handed her a glass of wine. "Thank you," he said simply. "For reading a bedtime story?" "It was my pleasure." "No," he said, his eyes meeting hers. "For finding us. For seeing us." Alexandra felt tears prick her eyes, but these were different from the tears of grief she had grown accustomed to. "Thank you for letting me in." 1 year later, Alexandra stood in the doorway of Lily's new bedroom, larger than her old one but still filled with the same twinkling lights and artwork. The difference was that this bedroom was in Alexandra's penthouse, which no longer echoed with emptiness but resonated with life. Michael appeared beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "She's finally asleep. Excited about tomorrow?" Tomorrow was their wedding day, a small ceremony with Lily as the flower girl, proudly wearing a dress she had helped design. "I never thought I'd find this again," Alexandra whispered, leaning into his embrace. "A family." "We found each other," Michael corrected gently. "All three of us." As they stood there, watching Lily sleep peacefully, Alexandra reflected on the strange path that had led her here. From a CEO hiding in the shadows of a hallway, watching a bedtime story with tears streaming down her face, to a woman who had learned that true success wasn't measured in profit margins but in moments of connection. The portrait of Emma now hung in their living room, a reminder of the love that had been and the love that would always be. Beside it hung Lily's latest artwork, a drawing of 3 people holding hands, with the words "My Family" written in colorful letters. Alexandra Reeves, once known as the Ice Queen, had discovered that even the deepest pain could be melted by the warmth of unexpected love. And it had all begun with a bedtime story, a moment of vulnerability, and the courage to step out of the shadows and into the light. The end.